that on LinkedIn?
And welcome back to AWS On Air, live at the DC Summit. My name is
Yeah, I
Sean
don't remember.
Bracey.
I had them both.
Global sales strategist at AWS. And I'm joined by my good friend,
Brian Terry, and I'm a developer advocate on the CloudFormation team, and I'm super excited to be here today. And we're joined here with some guests, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Pana Shetty. I'm a solutions architect working with public sector customers here and really looking forward to this. So.
Hello, I'm Serge Fouemé. I'm a solutions architect working actually with Gentech customers. Flew from Montreal actually to be here with you today.
Well, we appreciate you both being here. As I understand it, you were going to join us on stage to talk about building a DevOps shared platform. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, they didn't lie to me. That's good. So, what are the pros and cons of using a shared platform for DevOps?
Sure. What I would like to talk about first is actually dive back to why we thought this is a great idea.
Yeah,
right?
please.
So some of the challenges we were seeing, I come from a developer background, so the challenges I was seeing as before AWS is where my team, we were not able to really understand hey, what's happening with my pipeline, who set it up, change of people, no idea on what to do if the pipeline breaks, right? We had a CI/CD pipeline going, but a lot of the problems of not being able to support, maintain it, have the people was really hard, and that's sort of what kind of wanted me to want to be involved with this. But Serge comes from a DevOps background, so I'll give you what he has to say.
Yeah, so one of the challenges when you're a DevOps is that you want to be able to give your expertise to every application team that comes see you. And one of the things that I discovered at some point is that I was not scaling as a human, not be able to work with all those teams at the same time anywhere in the world. So, so there are some challenges when you want to scale DevOps in your organizations. And you also have a lot of different platforms that are coming into play that needs to work together, and you need actually to put that integration layer in place. And of course, you want to look at reliability, make sure that the services are available for your customers who are actually your development teams internally or your application teams. So this is what drove us actually to look into how can we fix this using some very interesting AWS services.
Super cool, super interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So this is not just for enterprise customers, is it? Because I too was a DevOps engineer long ago, and I worked for a startup. So it's great to see that this whole mentality about DevOps engineering, these pipelines go to big enterprise customers. Can you talk a little bit about how big enterprise customers can use a solution like this?
Yeah. Ada, you want to go first?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Go, Serge.
Yeah, well, maybe what we're looking for essentially is a way to quickly create a DevOps platform that will not take a lot of time, so will be very effortless for anyone, even people who are not DevOps practitioners. We're essentially looking at some interesting building blocks to build that platform, like the AWS Cloud Development Kit, and basically using CDK as a way to integrate different services of AWS together and create that platform that will be consumed by application teams.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and I think the key idea again is small teams or startups, any of those, right?
Yeah.
You don't have all of the ability to be able to quickly be able to spin this up for any new projects or programs, products that come out. And having this a shared platform really helps you, because if I've done it for one customer, I can repeat it for anyone, right? And same thing for startups. If I am able to get this as a shared code out there, they can then just use this to spin up something and go from there.
Wow, that's really cool.
So we're here in DC. We've got a lot of public sector customers walking around. I have to imagine setting up a DevOps in a shared environment helps them out with compliance also.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So I work a lot with the DoD customers, and one of the things that we always talk about is DevSecOps, right? You really want to get to market, Serge works with game tech customers. They get their product out really quick with everything that, new capabilities, features that comes out. DoD, public sector, everyone in general can do the same thing. And I feel like it's the same idea across all industry that you can share and look at these best practices.
Cool.
That is very cool. Very cool.
Some of the other things also is compliance, like what you were asking, right? So out of the box with a shared platform, you can build in all those security and compliance so that any team that does not or is not there yet with DevSecOps, they can quickly take the same solution and repeat it and have that compliance from day one.
Right.
Wow.
Right? So it gives you that leverage of being compliant and really knowing what you're doing from development all the way to production.
That's interesting. I love it how you have this solution that just breaks through these walls. You don't have these silos between DevOps, engineering, SecOps. You have the solution that everyone can see and have visibility into it. I mean, I think that's important.
And so getting back on the compliance though, even though we're in a shared environment, is there a way, I have to imagine that we can write some code, script it so that it's a predictable environment.
Yes.
You said repeatable.
Yes.
But so there's no like guesswork. There's
Correct,
no, right?
yes. Yeah. There's visibility into, and I think this is what Serge was talking about in terms of using CDK or CloudFormation, right? So when you have it scripted, you see what that pipeline's going to stand up, and all of the compliance, everything else you're building in, whether you are requiring every single customer to be leveraging AWS config, for example, right? Yeah. Or any of the security guardrails you're setting up, you can do that from day one. Yep. Right? Awesome. So your shared platform for DevOps is going to make sure that the same Docker container scans, for example, right? Any kind of scanning tools and everything else that you're going to build out is being used by every single customer.
That's cool.
That is very cool.
And one of the benefits actually of having a shared platform is that also that you can reuse best practices. So teams can actually learn when they're building their applications. They can learn how to make the application more robust on the security, from the security point of view, and then bake in those best practices into the platform. So you have that feedback loop where application teams come back and say, hey, today I want to do dynamic security testing. Maybe we used to do only static. Can you add that capability to the platform? And then the shared services platform team will be like, yes, I can do it. I'm just going to create a new capability, a new construct in CDK, and then deliver it to you.
So I think you've got a demo for us, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's take a look at it.
All right, so let's get started. So we're going from a solution that is essentially a skeleton of what a shared DevOps platform would be. The code can be stored anywhere in GitHub. You can store it also locally if you want to do some local development. And the solution is actually based on multiple constructs that are used. So the top of the solution itself is an application. So CDK has that level of abstraction that is very interesting. So you build an application. That application is made of stacks. Those stacks are using constructs. So you have those layers. Yeah. So we start with the top level here, which is the application. So the DevOps SSP solution, as we have called it. So we have able actually to specify where that stack will be running, so which account, and also which region, which means we can deploy this solution anywhere, on any account or any region, without having to recreate anything. Then the second layer is actually the what we call the stacks themselves. So we have multiple stacks. Yeah. And the first one, obviously, is actually our SSP solution stack here. And this is where we include all the different modules. So we actually have different libraries that we have built. Those libraries represent certain capabilities of the platform. One of them is the ability to give a self-service to end users. So end users can actually consume the platform via an API. So we include that capability here. We also have a wiki that will allow us to read documentation and user guides very easily. And we have some quick starts, as we call them. So those quick starts are, for example, a compliant CI/CD pipeline that can very easily be used by the teams without knowing much about how to write a code pipeline, for example, in CDK. And here we can actually see that we are creating all those individual parts of the solution, which means if you want to add new capabilities, you just need to create a new stack and then add it to your top-level application.
Yeah, the code is very modular, so you can easily integrate any stages that you want into it.
Right.
So, and one of the things that we're doing here, right, is with this shared platform, once you have something set up, you can easily have other customers on board, and they have a DevOps going on there easily.
Exactly. So the solution also comes with a sample cluster application that can be deployed on EKS. Also some definition for onboarding flows. So the ability, for example, to create observability directly for the application teams. And we do it very easily with step functions. We create actually several things like a Prometheus workspace and so on. And we will see that actually in the actual demo. So to get started, essentially, once you've actually pulled the code from Git, you essentially just need to deploy it. So you kick off a deployment. CDK will actually look at the code and start rendering the files. Oh, all right. I think I have a...
Okay. Login back.
Yeah, so sorry about that. Let's just quickly refresh this.
Security reasons, the session gets expired, so.
Yeah. So when you kick this the CDK off, essentially it's going to create CloudFormation templates in the account.
Yes, exactly.
And that's going to create the infrastructure. Got it.
So that creates all of the step functions we're using. Everything else goes and lays out everything that you need, using Lambda for all those APIs that you need, as well as using, giving the customers the ability to use the CLI for actually spinning up the resources, onboarding themselves into the system, right? And one of the things that we also try to say is like, hey, this is a shared platform. What are the things you need for customers who are onboarding into it? So when I say customers, that's your end users, right? Like your teams, maybe, right? They need that observability. They need to make sure that, hey, if there's a security scans or anything else going, I get that data back from this platform. Were you back connected?
Yeah, back connected. So you run the CDK deploy command, and then it creates the stack for you. The beauty also of CDK is that you can have an evolution of the platform and keep building and just keep deploying.
Yeah.
So we can go quickly and have a quick look here at the results. So CDK will create CloudFormation templates that are actually materializing the solution, so which resources will be deployed. We can actually see that we have a DevOps SSP solution stack that got created, and our stack has a couple of resources that are going to be defined. We can also have a look at all the steps that were taken to create those resources. Since the stack actually is also composed of multiple substacks, we can actually see that we have additional components that were deployed. So we have the self-service API that is automatically deployed. We have a documentation site that gets deployed and so on. So if we go to Amplify, for example, very quickly, teams don't need actually to know much about setting up Amplify. They get that wiki out of the box where they can just write the user guide for the service and get started in a few minutes. So we can see here that we have our SSP that was just deployed. At first, there is no build for the documentation because you need to expose it to your end user, and you can just click on the build and make it available right away to end users.
So all your documentation is also in code, right? So it's all right there living with your code.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can keep updating the documentation and deploying it. One thing that we did was leveraging CDK pipelines. So CDK pipelines is actually a way to define a pipeline for your CDK code. And what we are doing here with CDK pipeline is that we are actually defining some specific stages. So I'm just going to show very quickly here the pipeline. And also defining where the code of the platform resides. In this case, it's in GitHub. We are able actually to create some stages to synthesize the code. And then every time we change the code in GitHub for the platform, there's a self-mutation that happens, and then the platform is actually recreated again from CDK automatically. So you don't need to do any manual deployment. You deploy it once, and then you keep doing your changes in GitHub.
Very cool.
Cool.
Now, I think the big question is, how can myself and the audience get our hands on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have our Chalk Talk tomorrow.
Okay.
Chalk Talks are awesome. I did my first one just a couple of months ago. It's beautiful because you really interact with your customers. They're helping us with what they think is important.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of direct contact with your customers that you're engaging on.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't wait to play with this thing, man.
No, and I can absolutely see how, where customers who are building up a lot of small services and iterating, how this can be really helpful for them to build out these development
Yeah.
ops areas really quickly for them.
Right, definitely.
Guys, we thank you so much for being here. This is really cool, a great demo. We appreciate you sharing the information with everybody.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks,
you.
Chad. Thanks, Brian.
And we appreciate you all joining in. We'll be right back from DC Summit live on AWS.